Your budgie might be suffering and you don't even realize it. From invisible mites to silent cries for help and the stress of molting, here's what every budgie owner needs to know to keep their feathered friend happy and healthy. Budgies are susceptible to mites, and much more so than other birds. The sources of infection are numerous and depend, of course, on the hygienic conditions in which you keep your budgies. However, this may not always be the case. Budgies can get mites from other infected birds, for example. If you have a bird and buy it from a friend at some wild market, then there is a possibility that the new bird is infected with mites and may transmit them to your bird. Also, carriers can be humans, but mites can't live on them, so if you have a pet, you will surely transfer them to your budgie. Budgies are quite sensitive when they are infected with mites. It is not just itching and wounds that can occur during scratching, but the problems can be much bigger. For example, they may develop a certain type of anemia. Anemia will occur because mites are parasites and need some benefit when they occur on the host. This is in the case of birds' blood. Mites suck blood and so can cause serious health problems in birds like anemia. They are also carriers of many bacterial infections and can cause certain beak deformities in birds. Bacterial infections are very dangerous, especially if they are not treated in time and if the cause is not found quickly. Of course, treatment involves the use of antibiotics as a medicine. Budgie mites symptoms. How do I know if my budgie has mites? Mites are indeed very easy to spot on your birds. However, the initial stages of their habitat on budgies are not visible. That is why there are certain symptoms, thanks to which we can know if budgie has mites. The most common symptoms are coughing, wheezing, crusty skin, feather loss, and restlessness. Coughing and wheezing are very present symptoms. They occur when mites accumulate in your bird's body. The bird, trying to comb and clean the mites from itself, inhales their air sacs, which enter its lungs and cause serious respiratory problems. Then you know that the infection has become serious. Breathing difficulties, constant coughing, and wheezing are caused by mites and prevent budgies from functioning normally. Birds can also make strange noises, which is a bad sign that the mites have reached deep into the respiratory system, which is very painful and exhausting for them. Go to the vet to cure your bird. Budgies that have mites become very distracted, restless, and very upset, sometimes a bit aggressive. This especially happens when mites appear at night, so they are not allowed to sleep and have a good rest. The birds then become tired and inactive and are unable to perform other life activities. Due to the excessive itching caused by mites, they constantly clean their feathers trying to remove the cause, so do not replace this itching with grooming. Budgies are often rubbing on cages, pots, and anything that would help them get rid of mites. Well, that's one of the more noticeable behaviors. This, of course, will not be able to remove the mites, which have become attached like parasites to your bird, so it will not help them. In very severe cases of infection, there will be huge wounds that will hurt them a lot. There are scaly mites that cause changes around the eyes, beak, and face in general. In these areas, the mites have dug very deep and cause white spots that are very thick and at the same time very, very painful. In very severe cases, mites cause profound changes in the skin. As they go deep into the bird's feathered coat, they cause peeling of the skin and irritation, a huge itch that is almost unbearable. Bold spots can appear on a bird, especially if the bird is constantly plucking feathers to remove the parasite. In the worst cases, the bird tears its feathers because it simply does not see another optimal way to defend itself from mites. What is crucial in the process of treating mites is to spot them as soon as possible and start treatment. If the mites overgrow, it will be very difficult and almost impossible to remove them without mites seriously affecting your budgie. Unfortunately, budgies can die from mites if they overpopulate. Diatomaceous earth was formed by the deposition of certain types of algae called diatoms, which are otherwise used to filter drinks, food, chemicals, and the like. Place the diatomaceous earth on the bottom of the cage where your bird is, and it is completely harmless to both your birds and you. 7 Dust is also an excellent tool in the fight against mites. It acts as a pesticide and can be applied directly to your bird's feathers. Some owners avoid this pesticide because budgies don't like them, but it has proven to be a great and effective tool in the fight against mites. Olive oil can also be used. You can use it by applying it to visible wounds on the body of your budgie. Olive oil will suffocate mites to death. You must put and apply olive oil only on the places that are visibly damaged and not on the whole body, because this can create waterproofing qualities in the feathers of your birds. There are also certain insecticides, such as chrysanthemum flowers, that contain certain substances that kill mites. Ivermectin is a drug used in the treatment of these parasites. Simply put it in the water your budgie drinks, and so your bird is treated by drinking water. Or 1 drop of ivermectin on their neck. Avoid touching feathers. Can birds die from mites? Unfortunately, birds can die if you do not start treating them against these parasites in time. They can multiply to the point that they cause serious diseases in birds such as anemia and bacterial infections, which can be fatal if not detected in time. Anemia is a very insidious disease. Mites suck the blood of your birds and thus reduce the level of blood in the body, disrupting the homeostasis of the body, while introducing certain bacteria that can create serious infections. If you notice that your bird is infected late, be sure to seek veterinary help to recommend the most effective and adequate therapy in the fight against these insidious organisms. Act on time so that the outcome is not lethal. Can humans catch budgie mites? Mites cannot parasitize humans. However, humans can be and are one of the main vectors of these parasites. A single mite can overgrow and cause huge consequences for your birds. Usually, a person gets them from furniture or bedding, and of course from the accumulated dust in your home. That is why it is very important to maintain the hygiene of your home, but also the hygiene of the space where your budgie lives, so that you do not potentially infect it. The biggest problem is that mites are invisible to the human eye, and one cannot know that one possesses them. So that you don't blame your bird for being sick, disinfect your hands often when you touch them. So, check your birds regularly, take care of the hygiene of your home, and if you own more than one bird, if you notice mites on one of them, isolate it from other birds so that the others do not become infected. And like any other pet, budgies may need help for one reason or another. This is normally a challenge to the owner, especially because birds cannot talk like human beings to express their feelings. That's why any avian keeper must know signs that show a budgie needs help. If you know these signs and master them, you can save your bird's life, especially if the underlying problem is something within your reach. Knowing the signs also helps you know when to take the bird for medical attention when need be and salvage the situation. In this video, we will see 12 major signs that, when you notice, you will know that your budgie is crying for help, after which you can help him as required. Struggling to breathe. Like other animals that can suffer from breathing difficulties, birds, including budgies, can also experience breathing difficulties, leading to struggles as the bird breathes. While the budgie cannot say it outright, some signs can help you reach this conclusion. For instance, you will observe that the budgie bobs its tail up and down while it's breathing. If you notice this, it's a clear indication that the bird is having breathing difficulties. Another sign that shows your budgie is struggling to breathe is if the bird stretches its neck repeated and with a lot of strain. While it's normal for a bird to stretch their necks, doing so repeatedly and with difficulty could mean that the bird is reaching out for more oxygen to make up for the breathing difficulty. Biting. Budgies, like other parrots, bite a lot. And that's why many people who tame budgies may misinterpret biting as normal. However, biting may be a sign that your budgie needs your help. Often, budgies may bite when something causes them fear. In this case, it would be appropriate for you to be there for the bird, so that the bird's fear and insecurities can go away. There are times when biting calls for vet attention. This happens when a usually quiet budgie bites aggressively and without stopping. This may be a sign of an underlying problem that may need a vet visit to be solved. Unusual feathers. Budgies go through the molting process when their old wings fall out and are replaced with new ones. At 1 year, the molting process is usually complete, and the bird is considered an adult, never to molt again. It's okay to see the feather a little freckled during molting. However, if this continues beyond 1 year, this could be a problem. It would be wise to take the bird to the vet for such cases. In many cases, the freckled feathers could mean an underlying issue. Screaming. Although budgies are generally loud birds who scream a lot, sudden screaming may indicate that the bird needs your help. Just like increased biting shows that there could be an underlying issue, so does screaming. A bird that screams suddenly could be experiencing pain and discomfort, and your help comes in when you understand what the issue is. When you notice that your budgie's screams have suddenly increased, you must take the bird to a veterinarian to ensure that the increased screaming is not related to the bird's health. Vomiting. Budgies are loving animals and regurgitate food as a mating ritual to portray affection. Of course, this is a natural process that is completely harmless for the bird. However, when the bird vomits, it is not a harmless process. So, then you need to know how to differentiate regurgitating from vomiting. A bird regurgitates by moving the head up voluntarily to fetch food, and that's harmless. However, if you notice that the process is rather rough, it means the bird is vomiting. This is characterized by the bird bobbing its head up and down and shaking violently. You could also observe what happens to the food after it comes out to tell the difference between vomiting and regurgitating. If the food remains sticking on the budgie's front, it definitely means the bird was vomiting and that the process was involuntary. Reduced vocalization. Just like increased screaming may be a sign that your budgie needs help, so can reduced vocalization. When a budgie is happy and energetic, it will move about, scream, and advance toward you when it notices you. When you realize that this has changed, it could be a sign that the bird needs your help. For example, the bird could be stressed or unhappy with the food or the size of the cage. It could also be feeling tired after a training session. Besides, the bird could be sick. If your budgie's vocalization decreases, give it time to relax. If it keeps happening, take the bird to a veterinarian to ensure that this is not related to the bird's health in any way. Sudden change in the excreta. A healthy budgie's excreta will consist of clear urine, dark-colored feces, and white urids. If you change the diet, the excreta can change depending on what you feed the bird on. However, sudden changes in the excreta could mean that something is amiss somewhere and your budgie needs help. If the droppings are white or gray, making it hard to differentiate urinate from feces, it could be a sign that the bird has a pancreatic infection and needs to be taken to the vet for a health checkup. Red feces indicate blood and internal bleeding, which can claim the bird's life if not treated immediately. Feather picking. It is normal for big parrots like macaws to pick their feathers when they are bored. However, there are times when feather picking becomes too much and calls for your help. For instance, the bird may pick on its feathers way too much to the extent that the feathers fall off on themselves. This could mean that there is something amiss. Could it be the noise in the surroundings that is initiating the discomfort? You need to find out and solve the issue. Often, extreme feather picking can be related to a problem in the blood. The budgie seems less active or off the balance. Budgies are active parrots who play a lot. If you get them the right toys and a spacious cage that accommodates their playful nature, well, the bird plays a lot. However, there are times when you will notice reduced activity rates in the bird and off balance. While this may happen when the bird is tired, it might be a sign that your budgie is crying for help if it goes on for a long time. If the reduced movement has something to do with balance, it could be that the bird is suffering from severe sickness. Also, if the bird trembles constantly, is unable to move, or sleeps during the day, it could mean that your bird is in trouble. Self-mutation. Sometimes you may notice that your budgie has graduated from picking its feathers and now focuses on its skinning, picking on it severely. This could be dangerous and quite traumatizing, and you need to figure out what the actual problem is. As part of helping the budgie, you could take it to the vet for examinations. Besides, you will need to start the bird on antipsychotic medication that involves fitting the beak with Elizabeth's collar to prevent further damage. Reduced appetite. Because you have lived with the budgie for some time, you must have learned its eating habits, what it likes, what it does not like, and what its particular treats are. Therefore, a sudden decrease in the bird's appetite will mean that the bird needs attention. It could be that the bird has a certain infection that is claiming its appetite or any other thing. Take the bird to the vet for examination. Stereotypical acts. The normal things that a budgie does may turn out to be signs that the bird needs your help. Alternatively, you may realize that the bird has started manifesting stereotypical behaviors. These too indicate that the bird needs help. For example, the bird could be swinging its head or whole body uncontrollably, pacing or tipping its toes. If you do not attend to these problems, you will notice self-destructive behaviors like feather picking and self-mutilation. Budgie molting is the timely replacement of old feathers on the body, tail, and wings with new ones. It is a very common phenomenon in most parrot species. Budgie molting can be compared with ecdysis, which is the process of skin shedding in humans, snakes, and lots of other mammals. The only difference is the frequency of replacement. In budgies, molting is a yearly process, while the skin shedding process happens 3 to 8 times a year. People who never have owned a bird pet or budgie get scared when they see the molting process, because usually during molting, the cage of budgies gets filled with old feathers. Not only that, but the budgies also develop needle or string-like tentacles all over the places on their bodies where they've lost feathers. Mounting is a natural cycle that happens in budgies like all the other body cycles once every year. It is worrisome for pet owners when molting happens in young budgies, but the truth is that molting starts in budgies at the age of 3 months, and budgies get lazy during the molting period and they might also look sick. But it is nothing to worry about. Sometimes molting also starts due to the hormonal factor, like when a budgie is trying to impress a mating partner, so that's also common. Budgies do not lose all the feathers at once, instead they lose them gradually, that giving new feathers the time to grow. And it also keeps the budgies warm and cozy, and in the early stage of molting, budgies can easily fly too. Sometimes the molting process in budgies stalls, mainly because they are not getting the proper nutrition or care that they need during the molting period. If the molting process is disturbed due to any factor, then it leaves budgies with bald patches and bald spots. So, budgies owners need to take care of them and provide them all the comfort that they can. And if nothing helps, then there is an immediate need to see a vet for the budgie. And the vet will diagnose the abnormality, otherwise the budgie may develop a disease that's called French molt. In that disease, the feathers of budgies get removed, and then they never grow back, leaving the budgie all bare and bald. Then he will never be able to fly, and it will also cause other problems like viral attacks and so much more. And the owners confuse the loss of feathers due to mites with molting. So it is very important to check your budgie properly and see for mites or even lice in their feathers. And for that, regular bathing and cleanliness is very important for budgies. Pin feathers are very sharp and pointy structures that grow all over the budgies' bodies. These pin feathers are covered with a sheathing that is made up of keratin, and they transform into new complete feathers over the course of 2 to 3 weeks maximum. They do not cause any physical pain to the budgies, but the behavior of budgies during the molting definitely changes. Pin feathers can be compared to beard hair that grows back right after shaving, and they are not necessarily hurtful, but they cause slight discomfort and are quite itchy. A fun fact about pin feathers is that all of them have a blood vein inside them, which subsides with time as the feather grows. But the presence of veins makes the feathers extremely sensitive to touch, and that's why, when the owners try to hold their budgies during the molting period, they show resilience or act grumpy. Some budgies start to bite because of the itching caused by the pin feathers, as they are unable to scratch the pin feathers because of their sensitive nature. So, they develop extreme anger issues and are jumping more than usual. All of this is a normal episode during the early stage. And when the owners try to pacify their budgies, they bite them or hurt them in one way or another. So, the best thing a budgie owner can do is to leave their budgies on their own and wait for the episode to pass. Molting is a very uncomfortable period for budgies as their feathers are shedding, and the growth of new feathers requires tons of energy and nutrition. So budgies are not necessarily happy and cheerful at the time of molting. In fact, during the molting period, a budgie doesn't even like to sing or play with his toys, and most of the time, budgies hate to even interact with their owners. And there is nothing wrong with it, because as soon as the molting period ends, budgies start acting normally. So, to ease the process and end it quickly, owners should deal with their budgies politely and provide them with all the nutrition they need. One thing that helps a lot with molting in budgies is regular bathing with warm water. Warm water not only soothes the skin of budgies, but also softens it and helps with the itchiness. Most of the budgies love bathing during their feathers shedding phase. Most of the time, molting is not molting in actual, instead it is some sort of viral infection or a skin disease. So, pet owners need to take care of their budgies and make regular appointments with the veterinary doctor, especially when they see excessive feather loss at an unusual time of the year, so that the vet can spot the problem on time and make their budgie friend free from all the pain.